Philadelphia 76ers, Chris Miles, Ryan McDonough, Smitty, Sam Mitchell. Sam, let's start with you on this. What does this mean for Toronto to get this series back to 2-2?
Well, it's everything, but I want to ask Smitty a question. When did bigs just started showing flat and let a guy beat him? Because you always teach guards to beat the big, right? What happened to hard showing up the floor and the defender, the primary defender, shooting the gap, getting reconnected, and now Joel Embiid can get back?
Oh, we were thinking the same thing because
what happened to coaching and teaching that?
That wasn't
just having him flat because he can't keep Kawhi in front of him.
That wasn't a trap. That wasn't a switch.
It was nothing.
It was no man's land, and that's why Kawhi was able to hit that shot. I obviously give Kawhi a lot of credit because that's a tough shot to make, but there's nothing here. There's no switch.
But look at the defense.
You're talking about Joel Embiid not playing the proper
back in
game.
our day, the big would show up the floor with his numbers toward the sideline to reroute Kawhi and make him go wide outside his shooting range, and then the defender, the primary defender, would shoot the gap and get reconnected, and then Joel Embiid would sit there on the nail, knowing that he could still guard Marc Gasol, take away his three, and you're in the help position, and now Ben Simmons can get on that right hand, force him back to the left to Joel Embiid at 7 foot, sitting on the nail. That's what we were taught.
So, Smitty, who is that on? Is that Joel Embiid not following instructions, or is that on Brett Brown?
Well, we're not in his locker room. We can't say how they pick and rolls. We're just saying the way we used to play pick and roll. And I also look at it as sometimes you have to have a basketball feel. That's Kawhi Leonard. I'd rather get the ball out of his hands and make somebody else beat him. Always want to make the next pass and make Marc Gasol make the next play. Not that Marc Gasol is not a good player. You know Kawhi is rolling, so make it tough. And if I'm guarding Marc Gasol for Sam, who's Ben Simmons, whatever I do, I'm going to hold it longer, till it's almost a trap until he has him gathered. And then I'm getting out, and hopefully you will be able to stunt and get to Marc Gasol so it won't be an easy
we can
pass.
buy time to get
So you can buy me some time.
So it's a great point that you make as far as the feel of the game and the open looks and who got them, because in the first quarter, Toronto was 2 for 11 from three-point range, and if you look at a box score, you think, oh, they're not getting good shots. It's good defense by Philadelphia. But you like the quality of shots that they were getting early and often. Explain that to us.
I did, Chris. They didn't make a lot of shots, as you mentioned, early in the game, but I thought they were good quality looks. Every team in the league wants threes with their feet set, and Toronto got those early. They just didn't make them. And as the game went on, I thought Kawhi generated a lot of good looks, not only for himself, but for the other Raptors throughout the course of the game. You contrast that to Philadelphia and what they were able to do. They made some tough shots. J.J. Redick was tracing the three-point line and hitting his usual spinning and twisting threes. Jimmy Butler banked in a three, but Philly had to make tough shots. Toronto missed easy ones early, but Kawhi made the plays down the stretch to win the game.
All of those were wide open looks, and of course Toronto still held the lead at that point. Sam, looking at Philadelphia, I don't want you to get too excited because I know you were exuberant about talking about Joel Embiid and the fact that he went into that fourth quarter in single digits, took just 7 shots, scored just 11 points.
I mean, look, you're talking about the most dominating player other than Kawhi Leonard in this series, a guy that when he's got the ball, he's unguardable. And the fact that he's on the floor and he's out there chasing Kawhi Leonard in switches, and yet you're not using him. You're at home with a chance to go up 3-1 against the second-best team in the Eastern Conference, and the best center in all of basketball goes 2 for 7 with 11 points, and he gets the majority of his points from the free throw line in 35 minutes. Joel Embiid, look, if he's going to play 35 minutes, he's got to have at least 20 to 22 shots. He's got to. He's got to touch the ball because every time he touches it, the defense is going to shrink. They have to take away his driving lanes. And then he is a willing passer. He can open up things. But for him to play and get 7 shots at home in a game that you can go up 3-1, that's inexcusable. And that goes, and Smitty knows this, and Ryan knows this. You got to look at the coaches because if the players are not moving the ball and getting him involved, that's when you call a timeout and say, look, the ball's got to go through Joel. We got to play through Joel and get rolling.
Well, Smitty, we talked about this before this game. 10-5-5, that's what Ben Simmons is averaging in this series. 10-5-4 in this particular game. Do they have a problem? It's like you said earlier, if they win, it's not a problem. But if they lose, it feels like it's a Ben Simmons problem with this team.
Well, I think when you look at Ben Simmons, he's too talented just to go by his scoring. I think defensively, rebounding, I think he has to come up with way more rebounds. I think he had 5, like you said tonight. I just think he's not into the game other than if it's on a push and a break. It seems like his eyes light up when he gets a rebound and he pushes it, it has to light up on rebounding, it has to light up defensively. And there's not too much defensively right now because Kawhi has 39 points. So I think for Ben and also the 76ers, find a way to be engaged to win basketball games. I didn't see it tonight. Yes, he doesn't have the ball in his hand, but you still have to be productive.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler, 29 points, 4 assists. Again, he was controlling the offense, and that negates what Ben Simmons does.
Jimmy was the second best player on the floor tonight behind Kawhi. He kept filling in it for a lot of the game. And to follow up on Smitty's point and Coach's point about Ben Simmons, I thought he had a lot of opportunities to get to the free throw line tonight that he passed up. He only took 2 free throws. He missed them both. That's been something he struggled with throughout the course of his NBA career. So I thought there were opportunities with his size and strength and athleticism to get to the line, and it seemed like Ben Simmons shied away from putting himself in that position.
All right, it's taken a while to get back to this, but Kawhi Leonard's greatness in this postseason. 6 games of 30 or more. So he played 87 postseason games total in his career, right? And had 7, or before the start of his postseason, had 7 30-point games before that. He's really advanced his career as a scorer.
You know, we've sat here and watched him since the days when he went up against LeBron, when he was MVP, playing. He keeps getting better. And now he's been able to make shots off the dribble.
He's too comfortable. When you watch him play, he is so comfortable playing. I mean, they're not putting any stress on him. It's like he's almost playing at home in the park with his boys. Am I right or wrong?
No, you're
talking about this second round of the playoffs.
I'm still looking at his skill set, Sam. Off the dribble threes, being able to footwork, the way he's went to another level offensively, and he's been good, but now it's starting to be Kobe-ish, Mike-ish, where he's getting to make plays through double teams. And I know what you're saying, Sam. These double teams ain't been hard, but I'm still impressed the level
And they're
he's
going under the screens in a pick and roll right at the three-point line. Again, how many more threes does he have to make for you to realize you cannot go under? And second, the bigs got to be up. They got to be up even with the guy who's setting the
Can I say
screen.
something?
You can't be back.
Can I say something? You see the GM over there is cool. Chris is cool. I was a player, the coach. You can see your blood pressure is rolling.
It drives me crazy because
blood pressure. That's why I don't coach, Sam.
You did the right thing. You live a lot longer. Look at the hands. You live a lot longer. But you got to look. A guy like Kawhi Leonard that can shoot the ball, you got to bring your bigs up. You got to just drill that in their mindset. You can't sit back or step below that screen.
Joel Embiid is not a guy that's, that's going to get out there. And Greg Monroe is not a big. Boban is not a big. So they got to have some other kind of coverage because those 3 bigs are not getting out, making no plays.
But if you're not going to get up, then this series is going to end in 2 more games because if you're going to let Kawhi come off at that 3-point line just an inch behind it and pull up for jump shots, he's not going to miss too many of those shots.
Well, Kyle Lowry is a guy that's been much maligned in Toronto losses, and his postseason struggles have been well documented. 14 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds. Came out aggressive in that first quarter. Hit his first 3 shots. That seemed to set the tone overall for this team.
I totally agree. I love the way he came out. His mindset, he was aggressive. He wasn't hesitating. Kyle Lowry is better when he's not thinking about his offense. I think when he gets open shots and he starts to look at it, trying to get his feet set, when he just plays in the flow and he's aggressive, he plays much better on the offensive end.
Playing in his hometown too, Sam.
Just get out and run, man. Look, Kawhi is the primary ball handler in this series, okay? So if you're Kyle Lowry, just get out and play the 2-guard, man. Get out and run the lane, spot up and shoot your threes. And when they chase you off that 3-point line, that's when your opportunity to get into the guts of the defense, and now you can make plays. But if I'm Kyle right now, I wouldn't sweat it. Play off the ball, accept it. When you have the ball, push it, run pick and roll, get in the paint, distribute the ball to your shooters. But when you don't have the ball, just play off Kawhi Leonard and just let him handle all the pressure, and you just knock down shots.
That's a great point considering Kawhi Leonard grabbed those 14 rebounds, and when he grabbed it, he went, Ryan. What did that do for the tempo for Toronto?
It started early in the game for the Raptors, Chris. They were pushing the ball in transition. They had 12 fast break points in the first quarter, and Kawhi was a big part of that. And I think anytime you're struggling offensively, like Toronto was coming into the game, averaging just 97 points in the first 3 games, you want to get out in transition, not let Philly get their defense set, and probably most importantly, not let Embiid get set up at the rim where he can protect the basket and alter shots.
And there seems to be multiple guys getting the ball and getting out on the break. Pascal Siakam, Kyle Lowry, and then, of course, Kawhi Leonard. What does that kind of personnel do, Sam? How can you use that?
Well, I mean, that's the strength of this team right here. They got guys who can space the floor. They got shooters. They have athletes. So, again, anytime you turn the ball, have a live ball turnover against this Raptors team, when you got three guys who can handle the rock and distribute it, it's a death sentence for the 76ers. They got to take better care of basketball.
Well, Nick Nurse, his team now tied in this series 2-2.
Coach Nurse, Yanni Rubenstein, Hoops Israel. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Beautiful win. Before the game, you asked me to ask you this question after the game. So, do you think the 76ers are as close as this to a juggernaut team right now in the league, and how did you manage to exploit their weaknesses?
Well, we played a lot harder tonight, right, than we did in the previous game. It was very similar to game 2. I thought a little bit more of a grind out affair. Neither team was shooting the ball that well, especially in the first half. And we played hard and tried to make it as tough as we could on them, and made some plays there at the end.
Michael Grange from Sportsnet. I mean, Kawhi was obviously Kawhi, but you needed more from somewhere else, and some of the other starters stepped up. Kyle looked pretty aggressive, and even got some stuff out of Serge and Marc Gasol playing together. Just maybe speak about some of those.
Yeah, I think it was pretty obvious we needed some punch, around the roster a little bit. Looks like we got 1, 2, 3, 4 other guys in double figures and another guy with 9, so that's pretty good. I just thought it was a different mentality tonight than it was the other night, right? Guys were looking to shoot, taking the shots, first shot that was there. When they're putting 2 or 3 on the ball, you got to get off it, and if you're open, you got to let her fly, because there's not anybody out there that we don't want shooting the ball.
Yeah, Nick, there's Doug Smith, the Toronto Star. The decision to limit the second half to basically six players, was that just kind of ride who was hot, or is it you needed to change up the way you played?
Well, we were using the 6 kind of with everybody. Right, we had some funky lineups out there at times tonight. I don't know. I just liked the way those guys were playing. Right, I didn't want any of them to come off the floor, and the way Serge was impacting, I wanted him on, and that's just the way I could figure out how to keep those same guys going. I think it was a size advantage for us, believe it or not, at some portions of the game, and it just felt good.
Nick, Steve Simmons, Toronto Sun.
Where are you, Steve? Hi, Steve.
To win that game without Pascal being in Pascal-type shape and to get very little offense from him, how pleased are you with your group that you were able to do that under these circumstances?
Yeah, I mean, I think Steve, this was, it was a gutty performance, right? And that kind of was needed regardless of who was there or not, but it even becomes a little more gutty when you're down. I mean, you're not down a guy, but he obviously wasn't himself, right? And kind of the way our team and the rhythm of our team had been flowing had been with a lot of his help and stuff. So we weren't in great rhythm, right? But we were good enough tonight, and we were fighting and figuring some things out on the fly. We were running some stuff tonight we've never run before with Mark and Serge, and trying to figure out how to best use some of that stuff, and we did just enough. Like we made a couple good decisions on a few plays. We got bailed out on a few times when we didn't, and then we had some bad possessions too, right? But I think the main thing is we kept not really stringing up stops, but we weren't letting them string up scores too often tonight.
John, second row to your left. Coach, John Chu, NBA.com. What went into the decision to play Serge and Mark together so much? Was that completely separate from Pascal's, questionable status? And what do you think the effect was ultimately? Was it more on the defensive end of the floor of playing the two bigs together?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I felt tonight was the rebounding. Right, it just felt like we were getting pushed around a little bit in the last 2 games around the glass. And a lot of those times that would happen with our really small lineup, our Fred, Kyle, Norm, Pascal lineup, and they were just throwing it up there and revving up their engines and flying into the rim. And tonight we were just had more athleticism and size, and just looked that way, and then it looked kind of looked like the rebounds were affected by that. And I think that was the biggest thing, and the first part of your question, yeah, I mean, we were, looking at some options of how to, combat some of the problems we were having, and that obviously was entertained that Serge and Mark would play together. Hi, Scott.
Hey, Nick. Scott Stinson with Post Media. That last possession that Kawhi hit the big three on, I just wondered if you could sort of walk us through what you're thinking as he's trying to find a shot and then ultimately takes one that was a tough look.
Yeah, I mean, they did a good job of blowing up the play. They were kind of corralling him, I guess, with two guys, and we couldn't really get spacing to get off it and get to it wasn't like a hard blitz, and there was spacing there, and he got back on it. And I mean, listen, I thought it was going to be tough. I saw the shot clock winding down. He didn't get a great shot for the shots he took tonight. That was one of the tougher ones, right? And he just made a big shot.
Last couple questions. Nick, Mike Sealski from the Philadelphia Inquirer. To kind of follow up on that, how much, given the way Kawhi has played in this series, how much wiggle room do you feel like you guys have if he doesn't play as well as he's played in these 4 games?
Well, I think that, again, I'm hoping that we can get back to being a little bit more ourselves, right? I just think, again, where our rhythm hasn't been great, and you give them credit, man. This is a good team, right? They're physical, they're big, they're up and guarding, they're game planning, they're watching the films and all that stuff too. We're not in great rhythm. And I think we need to find a little more rhythm if something like that were to happen. And as much as at least we stepped in and took shots tonight, I think I watched a whole bunch of ones that I'm going to keep taking, and we got to make more of them. I mean, there's a lot of naked threes out there that we didn't hit, and one of these days we just might.
Coach Brian Koprowski from Hoopsite. You have, 2 bigs who can both stretch the floor with Serge and Mark. How much does that factor the decision to play them again together moving forward?
Well, I think we probably look at it again just because it helped us on the rebounding. It does help that they can both make them. It was nice to see Mark take them and make a couple and kind of keep taking them. Serge, hopefully when we get back on our own floor, will get dialed in a little bit. He had a couple threes that he took. He can make those too, and it'd be nice if he could throw 1 or 2 in a game too, because again, the penetration by whoever is going to draw a lot of help, as it should, and those guys are kind of safety valves out behind the arc, and if they're all alone out there, we want them to step in and take them, either one of them. Yeah.
Thanks very much, everybody.
So a few key words there from Toronto Raptors head coach Nick Nurse. He said, getting back to being ourselves after the last 2 games. It's as if he's saying that they weren't playing their brand of basketball. Serge Ibaka, Marc Gasol in the lineup together seemed to be one of those things that provided that, Sam.
Yeah, they have some size out there, and then you can dominate. People sometimes, everybody get caught up in small ball sometimes, but when you have size out there, it does a lot of things. It shrinks the floor. Now you can cover the rebound. You can wall. Now you got 2 guys. Marc Gasol is one of the best at walling up, and we know Serge Ibaka can block shots.
Brett Brown made some adjustments after game 1. Let's see what he has to say after this loss in game 4.
Am I right? No, you're right, Brett. Sarah Todd, Philadelphia Inquirer. That execution, probably the last half of that 4th quarter. What did you see? There was a lot of, there's a couple turnovers, a lot of missed shots.
Well, to be exact, there were 3 turnovers, and we missed some free throws, and we missed some layups. And you give Toronto credit; their defense went up a new level, and it was a closeout type of quarter, 4th period to go win a game, and we went in there. I think it was 75-75 at the end of the 3rd, and we went into a drought. There was probably a 6.5-minute drought that was littered with missed layups, missed free throws, some open threes, and sprinkled in with some turnovers, and I give Toronto credit.
Brett, center. Gerard Hector, BSO. Obviously with 1 day in between each game now, the rest of the series, no one's really 100%. Are you looking at anything differently with Joel playing minutes and how you're going to sort of structure that rotation going forward?
I mean, it's really just driven out of his health. You know, I got a text from him at 6:20 a.m. this morning telling me like he didn't sleep all night. He'd really never felt this poorly, and he was unsure, Coach, if I'm going to play. I just want to give you a heads up. I'll try, but I don't know. And, you know, with that started my day. And you started to like fast forward about who's going to come in, how you're going to, you know, rotate the team, et cetera. To his complete credit, you know, he just kind of willed his way through it. And that's a circular way to answer your question. When I get information of how healthy he is, I can better tell you or answer your question. As it sits, I appreciate and respect his effort to get out there and play for his team.
Maybe it's in regards to that. I noticed Joel wasn't out there for the anthems. Was he dealing with something at that point?
And John, I would expect that. I would completely expect that to be the reason, but I don't know that.
And I saw him after the early dunk. It looked like he grimaced. Was it something with his knee or his back, or was it
no?
something?
It's a virus, and you know, all during like pregame film, you can hear him sneezing and sneezing and sneezing, and you try to ignore it and like just coach through it and show the players the pregame tape, but I'd be lying if I were to tell you it wasn't completely on my mind as I'm talking to the team, showing the tape, listening and seeing him.
Brett, Darryl Bell, Philadelphia Tribune. You've tried everything almost imaginable to stop Kawhi. Is there any combination that you have seen that you like and you want to see more of?
I mean, I think he's punishing for sure. And, you know, when it was a 1-point game with, I think, a minute, maybe it was a little more than a minute, you know, with maybe, 2 seconds on a clock, he hits that back-breaker three. And I think it took it to 84, 81 or something like that. You know, the stuff that he can get off, and we had two people out there, the stuff that he can do to create his own shot is Kobe-like for me. You know, he's just so gifted in relation to doing that. To your question about like, well, who can guard him? Funny enough, you know, with our wins, I think we've done a decent job on him. You know, mightn't we look to double team him a little bit more? Possibly. But, you know, we were able to create, I think he had 7 turnovers and just try to do our best to show him a crowd. But at the end of the day, that's a hell of a player. 39 points, and you really felt all of them.
Brett, you mentioned pregame that you were ready for them to counter with a bigger lineup. How did you think you responded to that bigger lineup when Nick Nurse showed it late in the game?
I think we did fine. You know, I think rebounding-wise, you could feel the physicality. Try to do some stuff for Tobias, you know, with Serge trying to chase him a little bit more. You know, it's stuff we had talked about. But like I say, they you know, effectively played 6 players, and he did a great job. I think Serge and Mark, you know, you got 2 veteran physical players. I thought that they were outstanding. Mark especially hurt us with I thought efficient play and some threes and so on, but I didn't feel like we were unprepared. I do give them credit for the way they performed, but it wasn't something that, you know, caught us off guard.
Brett, in the back, what did you think of the way Jimmy played today to kind of keep you guys in the game all 4 quarters?
I mean, he just he wills his way into, you know, putting his thumbprint on just the game. Like, there's a physicality that he plays with. He's just a runaway train at times, and you know, him coming up with some rebounds and loose balls, and you see his just jaw-dropping athleticism. And then you just see his toughness emerge. And, you know, we talk a lot about trying to play to mirror the spirit of the city. This is Philadelphia. And there is a toughness that he has that I think reflects the spirit of the city. And I think tonight, you know, once again, you saw him do everything that he could to will us a win.
Brett, when Joel is that sick and he texts you in the morning, he's not feeling right, obviously he's not 100%, is there any consideration for not having him play tonight, or was it up to him? Or
For sure, Sarah, there was. And for sure there was. And he just forced his way into playing. Like he said, I'm playing. And really, like when you look at it, he was plus 17. We're all going to look at whatever he shot from the floor or his free throws or whatever. Cut to the chase and go to the bottom line and look at plus minus. And despite, him being ill and despite, 7 shots or, what he shot at the free throw line, and really his free throws were quite good up until the fourth period, he ends up a plus 17. And it's just another reminder of how important he is to our team.
But just to follow up on in the back, just to follow up on Jimmy, when he's on the bench, he seems like he's very, very engaged, kind of up, pacing around, talking to the guys on the court. What's it like having him back there? What is his? You mentioned the imprint that he puts on the team.
Yeah.
What is he saying? What is he like on the bench?
Leadership stuff, just leadership stuff that you would hope from a coaching standpoint one of your best players to say. And, you just sort of seen him, I have seen him grow from a leadership standpoint in noticeable ways. And it's reflected with his performance on a court. It's reflected of what goes on in the locker room. It's reflected with what you just said. You see him on a bench when he's not playing. You can point to multiple examples to say, that is a leader. And he's been able to back that up with some strong court performances.
Thanks, Brett.
Thank you.
Okay, the biggest takeaway from that, Brett Brown letting us know that Joel Embiid was sick prior to the start of this game and didn't know if he would play. What do you make of that?
Well, I never question a guy's injury or a sickness, but all I know is if he plays 35 minutes with this injury, I'm going to try to get him more touches. I don't understand that press conference from Brett Brown where he was sick, wasn't going to play, will play or not play. All we know is he played. And from the game 3 to game 4, I know we try to keep things in-house, but I didn't see him being sick enough where he doesn't get touches, where he's a decoy. He still was playing, Sam, in my opinion, where you have to get him the basketball if he's going to be out there 35 minutes. Now, if you'd have played him 11 minutes, 12 minutes, I had an understanding. But he played 35 minutes. Whether he played bad or good in those 35 minutes, you still have to go through him until he tells you he doesn't want the basketball or he can't do it because of his illness.
All I know is this: when I coached Chris Bosh and Kevin Garnett, all I know is whether they was out there at 100% or 50%, every time they touched the ball, we had an opportunity to score because the defense going to react. They don't know that he's not 100% because no one talked about it. This is the first we've heard of Joel Embiid not feeling well or maybe not even playing. But I do know this as a coach. Every time that guy, my best player, touched the ball, the defense going to react. Now, if he's not at his best where he's scoring and in flow, I'm going to talk to him during my timeouts or at halftime or before the game. Look, I'm going to get you your touches, but if you don't feel right, we're going to use you as a decoy and you keep the ball moving to get other guys opportunities because Joel Embiid on the floor is still better than any other option that you have. And to Smitty's point, you played him 35 minutes and he gets 7 shots. You can't do that. If he's going to play 35 minutes, regardless of how he feels, the ball's got to be in his hands so he can cause the other team defense to react.
7 shots, 7 assists. The thing that, for Joel Embiid, the thing that Brett Brown pointed to, which maybe make you raise an eyebrow, is just the plus minus, that he was plus 17, and that's the end-all, be-all. Do you subscribe to that train of thought when you're looking at a box score at the end of a game?
I think you have to be careful with individual game plus minus, Chris. As these guys know, you can be on the court and not do a whole lot when a team goes on a run and your plus minus looks great, or you can play very well and be on the court at the wrong time when the other team goes on a run and it doesn't look very good. So I understand what Coach Brown's trying to do. He's trying to protect his best player. I thought Embiid looked fatigued. I don't know if he was sick or not. Only the people within the walls of the 76ers organization know that. But I do think he looked fatigued tonight, and I think you saw that on the biggest play of the game with a minute left. Philly's down 1. Embiid gets switched onto Jimmy Butler. He doesn't slide up into Jimmy. He gets switched onto Kawhi Leonard. He doesn't slide with Kawhi. He drops his hands, and Kawhi hits a 3 to put Toronto up 4 and give the Raptors the lead, which clinched the game for Toronto.
Your proverbial dagger. Just looking at shot attempts, Tobias Harris 23, Jimmy Butler 18, Ben Simmons 10 to Joel Embiid's 7. We'll look to hear from the players next here on Game Time.